Millions of Floridians are preparing for the worst. They're boarding windows, filling sandbags, preparing to flee.
If they say evacuate, you probably should evacuate.
If you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Schools have announced closures, airports are grounding flights, and 51 of Florida's 67 counties are under a state of emergency. That's every single county east of Jefferson. They're bracing for Hurricane
Milton.
Hurricane Milton.
Hurricane Milton.
At the time I record this, it's a Category 4 hurricane, the strongest Gulf hurricane in 20 years, heading straight for Florida.
Floridians are bracing for the second major hurricane in less than 2 weeks.
It's going to have wind, it can kill you. It's going to have water, it can kill you. So I hope everybody right now starts thinking about what in the living daylights are you going to do?
Hurricane Milton has been traveling across the Gulf of Mexico at a fairly slow 12 to 13 kilometers an hour. That's how fast it moves as a unit. But those winds swirling around. When the storm was a Category 5 earlier this week, those winds were blowing more than 250 kilometers an hour.
It's rapidly intensified so quickly. It was a tropical depression on Sunday morning, and it is a Category 5 storm 30 hours later.
Usually when we think of high winds, we think of people struggling to stay upright.
You're seeing some video coming in from Golden Meadow, Louisiana, which is feeling the brunt of Hurricane Ida.
But a Category 5 storm, even a Category 4, makes a fastball pitch seem laughably slow.
The wind is really strong out here right now.
And this weighs a third of a pound. If anything even close to this weight were to hit you at anywhere close to that speed, you could die. And much of Florida right now is an absolute minefield.
Milton is expected to impact areas still cleaning up from Hurricane Helene.
Some of that debris, when those heavy winds come in, they could be brought up by that wind and then become dangerous projectiles. If not, they could begin clogging up sewer lines or just basically impeding first responders or electric crews.
Cleanup of the mess left by Helene has been in overdrive, with absolutely no tolerance for slowdowns. Florida's governor even told reporters that over the weekend, when hundreds of vehicles trucking debris encountered a locked landfill gate when they tried to unload, state troopers tied the gate to a pickup truck with a long rope, hit the gas, the gate was open. Then he said, without a hint of apology, "We don't have time for bureaucracy and red tape. We have to get the job done."
There is massive debris piling going on. This is what we call a compound disaster.
Now, I should be clear, none of the models I've seen predict Milton will stay a Category 4 by the time it makes landfall. Most predictions show it slowing to a Category 3, which is still 200 kilometers an hour plus winds. But at the same time, wind was never the main problem to begin with.
The most deadly aspect of a hurricane is water. It often gets lost in the discussion to wind, but the storm surge and the flooding from rainfall is often the deadliest part of a storm.
It's true that hurricanes kill more people by drowning in storm surges than by any other cause. This video from Australia's Bureau of Meteorology shows us storm surge combines with the tides, all that ocean water sweeping towards land as the storm pushes in. And even if the hurricane weakens on making landfall, that's just the wind dying down. The storm surge it produces can still reflect the intensity of the storm when it was stronger out at sea, because all that ocean water has incredible momentum.
Here we have a storm surge pole where the colors are color-coded to represent how high water can be above dry ground. The blue up to 3 feet, the yellow represents up to 6 feet, orange represents up to 9 feet, and anything above that is greater than 9 feet.
This map from the U.S. National Hurricane Center shows which parts of Florida's Gulf Coast are most at risk. If you're lucky, maybe you only see 3 feet of water. But the purple at the center, right around Tampa, one of Florida's biggest cities, storm surge up to 15 feet.
Unfortunately, the geography of the Tampa region, depending on the track the hurricane takes, will funnel a lot of that water into those areas where there's a lot of development. You don't want to be along the coastline at all with this because it's going to be a historic event.
And Milton's angle of approach could make these surges more dangerous. You see how it's coming in kind of perpendicular to the land as opposed to running parallel along the coast. That means higher surges, potentially like what happened with Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey 12 years ago.
It is chaos along the Jersey shore. The road into the seafront town is completely submerged.
And when you think about how heavy water is, a simple cubic meter of water weighs more than 2,000 pounds. So when ocean water overflows onto land, it hits hard. That water can destroy buildings, erode foundations, roads, toss cars around like they're toys. And those surges can push farther inland than you'd think, up rivers, up canals. You can see on this National Hurricane Center map, that's half the state of Florida that could see higher than normal water levels.
If it comes in north of Tampa Bay, you could see, double the storm surge that Helene had.
The question that keeps emergency planners up at night is, will people get out of harm's way when necessary?
It's not a game. We've gone through this numerous times, and the complacency is not now. We need to get the citizens to the shelters.
If you choose to stay where there is a direct hit, make sure you write your name on your arm so that we know who you are.
Part of what makes planning difficult is that nobody really knows exactly where the storm will hit. These hurricane cones you keep seeing, they only show you where the center of the storm might be at any given time in any given place, anywhere inside the cone. But that's still half the state that could get hit head on. And every other part of Florida is still going to feel the effects of higher winds, potential flash flooding. So that's 22 million people wondering, how should I prepare exactly?
I think one of the things that I'm sensing a little bit is this feeling that, I've lived through or ridden out hurricanes before, I'll do it again. But what I've been trying to emphasize is you haven't lived through this. This is a different context from something you may have experienced before, because this region has not taken a direct hit in over 100 years.
So for many Floridians, whether to stay or go may be a game time decision, but the stakes, very, very high.